Alright, welcome guys. This is the last part, part 3 of the video on lesson 9.5 about completing the square. Now, the reason we work on completing the square is so that you guys can actually write a function in a vertex form. We've covered already multiple ways of what the vertex form is throughout the last couple of lessons, and this is the kind of the coup de grace of it. Now, the next lesson we're going to be working on is solving using a quadratic formula, and so this is kind of the last lesson involving writing a vertex form of an equation. And here it is right here. The only thing I don't like about the book example, of course, is that this should have, they kind of make it look like it should, but remember it should be plus k. Okay, instead of the k being over here, this is your vertex form of an equation right here. All right, so what we're doing is, if you guys have noticed over the last couple of days or weeks when we worked on this, we've put a lot of this functionality together. I mean, we basically just worked on this, right, where we had x minus a number squared. That's what we were creating. Now we're going to take it one step further, and we're going to make a vertex form of an equation from a standard form. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to move some things around using the functionalities that we've been doing, right? So here's the first couple of things we're going to do, right? So first off, we're going to do what we did earlier on video 2, part 1 and part 2, where we're going to make x squared plus 2x by itself. So what you have to do now is we got to add 5 to both sides. Okay, so we're going to move the 5 over, and then we're going to go y plus 5 here. Okay, and then it's going to equal x squared plus 2x. Now we're going to complete the square so that we can create this part of our equation, right? So that's what we're shooting for. We're going to create that part first. All right, so what do we do? Remember from previous lessons, we take the b value, divide it by 2, and then you square it, so that would be a 1 squared, which is of course 1, right? So you add 1 here, and then you would add 1 to this value over here. Now you basically complete your square, right? So you add this together, so it would be y plus 6 over here, and then this value here, instead of me writing it out, I'm just going to do the perfect square part, right, with the x value, where what two numbers would multiply together to make 1, but when you add them make 2, of course, would be x plus 1 squared. And now you simply finish it by, we're done with this side, but now we have to have y equals, so you subtract 6 from both sides, and you end up with your vertex form of an equation. So it's y equals x plus 1 squared minus 6. We're done, right? So we took our standard form of an equation, our ax squared plus bx plus c, we went backwards, and now we created our vertex form. And from this, you guys would be able to know how it's graphed, the plots that are pointed, right? Because this is hk, so we know the vertex form of that would be a -1 and a -6, right? So know your values and how you do it, and that's what we're doing. Okay, we're focusing on rewriting equations, taking what's not there and making it there and visible, right? So this is y minus 36 equals x squared plus 18x, and then once again we got to complete the square, so you would take 18, right, divide it by 2, which is 9, square that, it would be plus 81, and then you got to add 81 over here, right? And then you do your setup. So this would be y plus 45 equals, and then I'll do the perfect square on this. That of course would be x plus 9 squared, right? And now you just basically subtract 45 from both sides, because you have this main setup, minus 45 minus 45, and there's your vertex form. Y equals x plus 9 squared minus 45, and we're done. Okay, same thing here, last functionality. Now we have an a value. Okay, so here's where it gets a little tricky. I got to make sure you guys can do this. Now we're going to still do the same thing. We're going to get plus 39 by itself over here. Okay, so here's where it would be y plus 39 equals 3x squared plus 12x, right? So now what we got to do is we got to ask yourselves, and this is where some of you will get a little tricky, is can you simplify it and make it like this? Can you make it just a simple x squared plus something? Whoops, I forgot the x. And the answer is yes, right? So this is where I want to make sure you guys understand, when you're going through these motions and you reach a dead end, you've got to stop and ask yourself, what can I do to solve this problem? Okay, you've got to see, okay, I'm stuck, now what? Figure it out, guys. Okay, that's the main thing you got to work on. All right, so here would be y plus 39, and then you have to look at yourself and say, well, what's the difference between this function and this one right here? Well, the x squared is by itself. Well, can we make the x squared by itself here? The answer is what? Yes, because we can factor it out. Okay, so this would be a 3x squared, and then you can take a 3 out of here too to make this a 4x, just like that. And now guess what you can do? You can now complete the square, right? So this would be 4 divided by 2 is 2. You square it, then this would turn into a plus 4 here and a plus 4 there. Now what you have is y plus, and that is a 43, and that's going to equal, let me make sure you can see my the board. It would be 3, and then it would be x squared plus 4x plus 4, right? Just like that. So now you can solve this. You can do the factoring. So this would be still 43, and now this is 3, and then it's going to be x plus 2 what? Squared. And look, we've already got the vertex part of it done. If you look at the top here, now we have our a value. These ones, the a value is 1, that the a value was 1, but here my a value is what? 3. And now you simply subtract 43 from both sides to make it simple. And I'm just going to do that right here. And there is our vertex form of an equation, because this would subtract 43 here. It cancels out, and we're done. That's your answer. That's your vertex form. Easy. Don't get stuck. And if you do get stuck, take a deep breath, look at it, and say, what can I do to solve it? Don't just say, well, I don't get it, and move on. Okay? Figure it out and move on. All right, you guys try these two on your own. Pause the video, and good luck. Okay, last piece of the puzzle here is making sure you guys can subtract 4, set this up. So this would be y minus 4. On this side, it's going to equal x squared plus 2x. Once again, solve it to complete the square. If you do that, we would add 1 to this side here. And if you do that to this side, you got to do it here. So you'd get y minus 3 equals, and then it's going to be x plus 1 squared, right? I'm factoring that in my brain. If you don't know how to factor it in your brain, then write it out and factor it, right? And then add 3 to both sides. So here's my form. Now I skipped a step. I'm just scratching the 3 off by adding it back, but you're done, right? Simple enough. Same with here, okay? This is going to be y plus 42 equals negative 2x squared plus 20x. This does not look like this, so what do you have to do? You have to factor something out. In this case, ladies and gentlemen, you would factor out a negative 2. Now, you may ask yourself, how can I factor out a negative 2? Well, when you do, you're going to take this 20 and make it a negative what? 10. All right, so this is what I mean by this. If I were to factor out a negative 2 from this aspect right here, negative 2 here, this would be x squared, right? So you multiply that in, you distribute that in, it'd be negative 2x squared. How would I make this? This has to be then a negative 10x. Okay, you have to change the sign. The reason you have to change the sign is if I distribute this negative 2 into here, remember, it's going to be negative times a negative is a positive, so that's how you'd create the positive 20 up here. You've got to be able to go backwards and forwards in math. You've got to be able to understand the process and not just look at it and say, oh well. No, there's no such thing as oh well. Figure out the problems. Okay, don't just be a problem solver. There's a lot of you in here that are going to be problems later on that you're just going to not want to figure things out. Figure them out, guys. All right, so this would be negative, and then what number do you add? Remember, it's negative 10 divided by 2 at 5. You square that. That's a plus 25. And now you have your setup. Okay, so this is going to be y plus 42 equals negative 2. And then it's x minus 5 squared. And then I'm just going to cheat the system here and go negative 42, scratch that off, and there's your vertex form right there. Okay, it's cool setup. It's easy once you get the hang of it. All right, same thing. Add 10. So my equation here is going to be y plus 10 equals x squared minus 8x. All right, 8 divided by 2 is 4. You square that, you would add 16. Add 16, so you'd get y plus 26 here equals x minus 4 squared, and then you would just subtract 26 from both sides, scratch that off. There's your answer. Simple enough. On the homework, you'll have some of these problems like this. I want to make sure you guys can do this. If we were in class, guys, at this point at the time of year, we would give you tons more of examples. I would push the envelope of your brain and make sure you guys could do the process and see the patterns and understand them. Good luck with the homework. If you have any questions, ask your teachers. It's been a pleasure. I look forward to teaching you guys next week.